Okay, we'll get started here. Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Cindy Erickson and I am a tour coordinator with Westworld Tours, and I'll be facilitating the presentation this evening. Joining me to tell you all about the great sights and attractions you'll experience on our tour to the Maritimes is our Senior Tour Director, Koral Romanchuk. Welcome, Koral.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. It's nice to be here with you tonight.
Well, we're happy to have you with us tonight as well, Koral. Thanks again. But before I turn the presentation over to Koral, I do have a couple of things I would like to mention. Number one is questions. We do encourage you to ask questions at any time throughout the presentation. But that being said, we do have everyone on mute. So we ask you to please type your questions into the Q&A box that's located on your screen. And if you've joined us on Facebook, please type your question into the comment section of Facebook. We welcome all of your questions and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And our upcoming presentation we have on May 25th at 7 p.m. It is our Women Explorers New York, a Christmas Spectacular. So we hope you'll be able to join us on the evening of May 25th. That's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to learn a little bit more about New York at Christmas. And if you've missed any of our previous live presentations, we do have recorded versions available for viewing on our website at westworldtours.com. And if you would like to receive invites to future presentations, as well as timely information on any of our new tours, we do recommend that you sign up for our email newsletter. You won't be inundated with emails and you can unsubscribe at any time. So I'm going to launch a poll onto your screen right away, and it's going to give you the opportunity to sign up. And if you've already signed up to receive our newsletter and you're receiving it, please just let us know that as well. And I'll give you all a couple of minutes to answer that. And then we'll move on. Okay, it looks like everybody's pretty much had a chance to respond to that. So I'll just end that. Thank you, everyone. So a little about Westworld Tours. We are Western Canada's premier tour company that's been serving Canadians from coast to coast with escorted travel throughout North America and around the world since 2000. Presenting quality components, including modern, comfortable coaches, professional tour directors, experienced, courteous drivers, baggage handling, and excellent accommodations. We take in all the important sights and attractions and include several meals throughout. Thousands of passengers have chosen our first-class style of touring, enjoying the great value, security, and stress-free environment, all while making new friendships along the way. And we know our tour directors enjoy getting to know you while on tour, and they love to see familiar faces. And speaking about this, I'm going to launch our second poll onto your screen right away here. And I'll just get that ready. There we go. And we'd like to know how many watching this evening have traveled with Westworld Tours before. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, you can enter your response into the comment section on Facebook. So I'll give you all a chance to respond to that, and then I can share our results. Okay, it looks like, Koral, we have 43% of people viewing this evening that have traveled with us before, and to those we say thank you and welcome back. We look forward to seeing you on board one day soon. And about 57% have not traveled with Westworld Tours before. And I know our tour directors are anxious to welcome you on board as well. So thank you for participating in that. And I'm going to jump right into the Maritimes here for you. So we're highlighting our Maritimes tour this evening that's departing September 9th to October 3rd. And you'll see 7 provinces and 5 states on this cross-country tour through the Canadian Maritimes, the Appalachian Mountains, and Niagara Falls. You can enjoy a cruise on the Rideau Canal, ride the Canyon Mountain Tramway, and view the Wisconsin Dells on a fabulous boat tour. You'll experience the illusion of Magnetic Hill and the wonder of the reversing falls. You'll take in some history at the Maritime and Spring Hill Miners Museums, and you'll visit Anne of Green Gables, and you'll learn from local guides on our city tours of Montreal, Quebec City, Charlottetown, Halifax, Ottawa, Niagara Falls, and Niagara on the Lake. So you get to experience all of this and more on this relaxing 25-day tour. And yeah, at this time, I'm going to introduce everyone to Koral. Koral has been with Westworld Tours for over 20 years now, having traveled the globe extensively, setting foot on all 7 continents. She's, and she's traveled to all 10 Canadian provinces and 3 territories, having guided the Maritime Tour for us 18 times. There was a couple years there that she missed, which I'm sure she'll share with everybody this evening as to why. Anyway, Koral does bring to her role as Senior Tour Director a wealth of knowledge and experience. So Koral, again, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to turn the presentation over to you now and have you guide us through the Maritimes.
All right, thank you so much, Cindy. Again, everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And thank you so much for joining us. Those of you who have traveled with Westworld before, I believe that was 43%. It's so nice to have you here tonight, of course. And also just a huge special welcome to those of you who have not traveled with Westworld before. I truly hope perhaps I will have the pleasure of sharing your company on a tour sometime in the future, maybe even a Maritime Tour possibly. So as I begin tonight, Cindy and I were just discussing before we started the show how many times I'd actually done the Maritime Tour, and of course the last 2 years in 2020 and 2021 we did not have a Maritimes Tour. I was saying to Cindy I should have had 19 trips to the Maritimes since I began working for Westworld, but I did get married in 2018. I wasn't a very good bride. My husband finally sat me down and told me I needed to stay home and help him plan our wedding. And that was why I missed the Maritime Tour in September and early October of 2018, because I was getting married in late October. So he made me stay home and help him with the wedding details. So, but I am very much pleased to be back at the Maritimes Tour this year, and this has been just a super popular tour as we're going forwards toward this coming fall. Just it's really selling like hotcakes, so to speak, and we do have plenty of room on that September 9th departure for a 25-day tour. And I'm going to talk a little bit as we begin tonight, everyone, about the idea of going on a 25-day all motor coach tour, because that's pretty extreme, being 25 days on a coach. I don't think it's much of a stretch to call it an epic adventure. It really, truly is. I was also saying to Cindy just before we started, I was trying to remember, I know I have it in my notes from previous trips, how many kilometers we actually travel on this tour altogether. But if memory serves me correct, it's somewhere between 12 and 14,000 kilometers that we travel. So as I say, not a stretch to call this an epic adventure. We're looking at this first slide here, which is a really, really good map of all of that area that we travel. So 7 provinces and 5 US states as well. Before I talk about the map, everyone, I'll tell you in my personal opinion, one of the reasons why I think this tour has been so popular for Westworld for so long. And I believe it's true that a lot of us as Western Canadians want to be able to say that we saw our beautiful country of Canada from coast to coast. And a lot of us, of course, of Western Canadians have at some point in time, have or will drive west to the Pacific Ocean. But a lot of people people want to say that they drove all the way east, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, kind of to complete that journey across the country. And that is honestly why I believe it's such a popular tour. And it really is a wonderful tour as well, too. So much I'm going to tell you about tonight. But as we start out, let's have a look at the map here. Excuse me. Departing from Saskatoon and Regina, we make our way through Winnipeg, overnighting in Winnipeg and Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie on our big journey heading around Lake Superior. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. We make our way into Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City. That is what I call chapter 2 of this trip. Chapter 1 is what I call the drive. Chapter 2 is the cities, where we do Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City. I just have to just kind of, enforce at this time too, just to tell you all that we have a lot of 2-night stays on this tour. I think that's really worth pointing out to you, that actually helps slow the pace down of a tour that's 25 days. So a lot of 2-night stays. It's also fantastic that we have several step-on guides that join us for city tours in the various destinations. After we leave Quebec City, we make our way into officially the beautiful Maritime provinces, making our way over to New Brunswick, Fredericton, and then gradually making our way to Prince Edward Island and Charlottetown. And then you see Sydney over on the right-hand side of the map. We journey to Nova Scotia and Cape Breton Island, and then we eventually make our way back down to New Brunswick at St. John. From New Brunswick, we drop down into the New England states of the US. We visit Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and then heading over into New York State, up to Niagara Falls, and then back down into the US for some more fantastic attractions. There's some really great things that we're going to see and do in Frankenmuth, the Wisconsin Dells, and then finally making our way up through Rockford, Minneapolis for a farewell dinner, reflecting on all that we've done. So it is a big trip, and back to Winnipeg, and it's wonderful. So 25 days motor coach. And Cindy, just as you move on to the next slide, just a little word of advice to you all, everyone. If you're thinking about a maritime tour like this, I'll tell you as a guide, and I'm sure our other Westworld guides do this as well, but when you're in a 25-day trip, I know myself when I'm guiding this tour, I like to keep my my folks up to date on, nights when it's going to be a quiet night. It's a good night just to go to bed early, have a relaxing dinner, get a good night's sleep. Nights when it's going to be a great opportunity to catch up on laundry, because there will be evenings on this trip where we're busy, and you really have to stay rested on a tour this long. So it's just good to keep those things in mind as well too. The first part of our journey, everyone, we're looking at the lovely city of Winnipeg and its new Civil Rights Museum there on the left hand side of that shot, up in the top right hand corner of your screen. So we will no doubt be picking up some more folks in Winnipeg. We normally do that. And then we begin our journey heading eastward through Kenora, getting into that lovely country of Northern Ontario around Lake of the Woods, and then making our way out towards Thunder Bay. So I'm just going to skip around a bit here, but in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, that is actually a really classic view of what that highway looks like as we journey across the Trans-Canada, making our way along the shores of Lake Superior. So of course we stop for excuse me, for a photo op or two overlooking lovely Lake Superior. And as I was saying, we do overnight in Thunder Bay. So if you're looking in the top left-hand corner of your screen, that is a beautiful waterfall. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's about a 20-minute drive outside of Thunder Bay. It's called Kakabeka Falls. So we get off the bus and go for a little walk just late in the afternoon before our arrival in Thunder Bay, just to enjoy beautiful Kakabeka Falls. And the following morning, as we say goodbye to Thunder Bay, making our way heading towards Sault Ste. Marie, we stop at a very special spot, which is about 10 minutes outside of Thunder Bay on the other side, heading towards Sault Ste. Marie. And that is the Terry Fox Memorial. It's a really lovely memorial. That memorial was completed in 1982, so that would have been roughly around a year or so after Terry Fox passed away. And I think most or all of us, even as Canadians, would agree he is definitely one of one of the heroes of our country, and truly such an inspirational figure. So I find it's really a special spot for our travelers just to have a chance to stop and pay their respects. Where the memorial is, incidentally, is about 4 kilometers from where Terry was actually forced to abandon his run. So it was a spot when they were widening the Trans-Canada where they actually moved the memorial there. So it's a good big parking lot and a really nice spot. But 143 days he ran, 3,339. Now I'm going to forget, Cindy, if that's kilometers. I believe that he ran, but 143 days he ran when he was forced to stop his run just outside of Thunder Bay. So it's really a lovely spot. And oops, there you go. Perfect. Okay. I find on a tour this long, as I was saying, 25 days, in my head, I do tend to divide this tour up into chapters. So again, chapter 1 is the drive, as we drive to Winnipeg, and then to Thunder Bay, and then to Sault Ste. Marie. And then finally, the 4th day of the tour, we arrive in the city of Ottawa. So by late afternoon, we've arrived in our nation's capital, and this is our first 2-night stay of the tour. And believe me, it feels good to unpack your luggage a little bit and have our first 2-night stay of the tour. And as I was saying, but I really can't say it enough, it really helps slow the pace down on a big tour like this, having all these 2-night stays. Ottawa is a really, really lovely city, and I always like to ask our motor coach driver just to come into the city a particular way, just so that you can see all those famous sites in Ottawa, the War Memorial that we all know so well from seeing it on the news and from Remembrance Day ceremonies, up by the Chateau Laurier, of course, one of the original famous CP hotels. And the Parliament buildings is truly impressive to see from the outside. We have a lovely hotel in Ottawa. We're actually very, very centrally located. That's another thing that's really worth mentioning. For most people, it's actually quite an easy walk. Excuse me, to walk back up to the Parliament buildings, no more than about maybe a 10 to 15-minute walk or so from the hotel. We do have a step-on guide the following day after we arrive in Ottawa, who will join us for a full city tour. Just a few little things for you about the city of Ottawa. It was originally called Bytown for Colonel John By, who was actually in charge of overseeing the construction of the Rideau Canal. And the word Ottawa, originally O-D-A-W-A, from the Algonquin tribe, meant traders. And then the spelling was changed to Ottawa as we know it today. It wasn't necessarily where it was thought the capital for Canada should be. It was known to be a little bit of a backwoods borough, so to speak, at that time in the mid-1800s. And it was for that very reason that Queen Victoria chose Ottawa as the capital, thinking that it would be safer from attack than somewhere perhaps like Kingston or Montreal. And so Ottawa was chosen as the capital. So there's a lot of interesting history there, actually. And we're going to have a wonderful tour of Ottawa. And we do get to see the Parliament buildings. And the Parliament buildings is, as I say, it's truly impressive. The architecture is definitely something to see. We will go inside the Parliament buildings. On the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you're actually looking at the Rideau River with the Parliament buildings just up against the river. So that's actually quite a lovely view of it as well. And then we're going to have a lovely afternoon cruise on the Rideau Canal. Just in the center of the screen, everyone, on the right-hand side, maybe you can see the canal that's actually in the very back of that shot. We're looking at the Chateau Laurier and also the Parliament buildings, if you can see that on that little picture there, and then one of the canal boats. It's a really interesting and really, really fun cruise, about an hour and a half long cruise that we do on the Rideau Canal. The Rideau Canal, by by the way, is 126 miles long altogether. And in the wintertime, it becomes the world's longest skating rink. But in September, it's just nice to go for a cruise. And after that, a bit of free time, maybe some time to go down to the Byward Market, have yourself a beaver tail. That's definitely one of the things to do in downtown Ottawa. So our stay in Ottawa is always really enjoyable. And then we say goodbye to Ottawa and make our way on to the next city in the chapter I call the cities. And this city is Montreal. Now we we don't overnight in Montreal. We're here for part of a day. We're looking at some lovely photos here. We've got the Olympic Dome there in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't have it in front of me. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy. I believe 1976, I think it was, when the Olympics were held in Montreal. A lot of beautiful architecture going over to the left-hand side. You can see old Montreal. So indeed, a very old city, and looking in the top left-hand corner, a really lovely view of the skyline of Montreal taken from Mont Royal, which is their mountains, so to speak. They're proud of their mountain in Montreal. And so, you know, being from the West, we try and not, not chuckle at that. It's 764 feet tall, their mountain, but it is Mont Royal. And nonetheless, it does offer a magnificent view of Montreal. I have to be honest, to me, Montreal feels like a little bit of a concrete jungle. I don't think I'd want to live in Montreal myself, but it is really a lovely city for sure. And not only is the architecture really fantastic, but there's some really, great food items that have come out of Montreal. They're really well known for their bagels, their Montreal smoked meat. In fact, you'll get a bit of free time before we have a step-on guide join us for a city tour right in Dorchester Square down in downtown Montreal, less than a 5-minute walk from where we generally park the motor coach. One of the premier places to go eat that Montreal smoked meat is called Dunn's. And I very, very often have guests from our tours go to Dunn's for Montreal smoked meat. And I'd say nobody's ever disappointed. It's really, really good. And you've heard my presentations before. I always like to say it's nice to experience places through their food and drink, as well as their history and their architecture and so on. So it's fun to have a chance to go for some Montreal smoked meat. And finally, in the top right-hand corner, we're looking at St. Joseph Oratory. It's a Catholic shrine in Montreal, whereby the devout Catholics actually stop to pray in every one of those stairs leading up to St. Joseph Oratory. So we'll stop there for a photo op as well before we finally say goodbye to Montreal late in the afternoon and begin our journey to what is unquestionably one of my personal favorite places on this tour. And I would have to say that seems to be the case for many of our travelers with Westworld that join us on the Maritimes Tour. The time we spend in Quebec City typically tends to be one of the great highlights of this trip. We stay in beautiful Quebec City for 2 nights, and this city is absolutely stunning. It's so, so beautiful. I just can't say enough about it. But we have a 2-night stay in Quebec City, where once again, we will have a local step-on guide joining us. And the history, of course, as you can imagine, is absolutely immense and nothing short of fascinating. We drive right past, stop for a photo even on the Plains of Abraham, where that famous battle took place between Generals Wolfe and Montcalm, a battle that was over in less than 30 minutes. So man, there's a lot of really interesting history right there in the Plains of Abraham. By the way, Quebec City, maybe some of you listening tonight know this, it was the only walled city north of Mexico. And still to this day, 4 of the original gates are still remaining. I believe it's just 2 that were destroyed. We're looking at one of those gates on the bottom lower left of your screen. And we actually drive right through those gates at least a few times with the motor coach. So yeah, it's really incredible. On the far right-hand side of your screen, you are looking down there on the streets of old Quebec City. At the top of that picture, if you see that green roof, copper roof, that is the beautiful Chateau Frontenac. And perhaps you can see the funicular, which is the fast way to get up the wall. There are stairs that you can take during your free time if you want to go between the lower part of the wall and up top. There's so much to see and explore, but the funicular is like a little mini gondola. And top right hand corner, again, the beautiful Chateau Frontenac, a bit of a look at the skyline. And then also that same day, we take some time in the afternoon to go for a really wonderful journey in the Quebec countryside. And again, I can't say enough how beautiful it is. We drive along the banks of the mighty St. Lawrence. We go out to some of those old villages like Chateau Richer, Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré. Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré is famous for its cathedral, and really I guess you could call it a Catholic shrine too, right there in the center of your screen, with the statue, the golden statue of Saint Anne on top. Inside that magnificent cathedral, you can see all the crutches all placed against the walls of the back of the cathedral, where many devout Catholics have said, you know, miracles happen. They're miracles of healing and so on. And the cathedral is absolutely stunning inside. So we have a chance to visit that, and our day's not over after that. From there, we head out to a traditional French sugar shack for our evening meal that night, and it is so much fun. So we get to have the French pea soup, the pork rinds, that delicious tortilla meat pie. I love maple syrup on just about everything you want to put it on. Live music, you do some toe tapping music, maybe even some dancing if we're lucky. And then the night ends with the rolling of the taffy in the snow. And that's what you're looking at on the top left-hand corner of the screen. It's just so much fun. So we have 2 nights in Quebec City to look forward to. And it's hard not to just talk about that. So from there, though, we head into what I lovingly call chapter 3 of this 25-day tour. And this is the one that you really came for most of all. This is the one that I call the Maritimes. And we leave Quebec and make our way into the province of New Brunswick. But before we do that, we actually make one final stop in Quebec, because something else that the beautiful province of Quebec is known for, and truly it is a lovely province, it's known for its wood carving. And we stop in a little town founded way back in 1721. There's so much history in the east coast of Canada. That little town is called Saint Jean Port Joli, and Saint Jean Port Joli is famous for its various artisans, but most of all, it's famous for its wood carvers. And we stop at a local wood carver shop in Saint Jean Port Joli. It's a business that I guess going on 3 generations, the one that we like to stop at. And I know when I like to travel, I think this is true of a lot of people. It's fun to buy locally made products, and this is a great place to do that. So it's really nice to buy some of the beautiful wood carvings, and there's all kinds of things. There's big things, but there's lots of little things you can buy there too if you want to take home a wood carving souvenir. We head into beautiful New Brunswick. Before we arrive for our night in Fredericton, however, there's a really lovely stop that we make that afternoon, and that's what you're looking at, everybody, on the left-hand side now of your screen. This is in a town called Heartland. Excuse me, it just escaped me for a second there. This is Heartland, New Brunswick. Heartland is famous for being the home of the world's longest covered bridge. And I'm not sure if you can see that sign very well tonight over top of the bridge, but it says 1,282 feet on it. And that is the length of the world's longest covered bridge across the lovely St. John River. Just quickly before we carry on from this slide, though, a little bit of info for you, something you might find interesting. There were some practical reasons for having covered bridges. Of course, you might know that their nickname were kissing bridges, but they did have some practical purposes as well too. One is covering the bridge would increase the length of time that the bridge would last. In other words, the timbers wouldn't rot, wouldn't be exposed to the weather, and so the bridge would simply last longer by being covered. And also back at this time, 1800s, animals were being crossed over the water. And so by having a bridge have the appearance somewhat of a barn, it would actually ease the animals' fears as they were being crossed over the river. And that was another practical reason for having covered bridges. But for us as Westworld travelers, there is actually a footpath across that bridge. So the traffic goes over the St. John River, but we actually get to walk it. So we always have our motor coach driver park on one side and let us off. Not everybody wants to do it, but lots of people do, and then pick us up on the other side, so you can say that you actually walked over the world's longest covered bridge. And finally, on the bottom right, that is another view of the St. John River, and that's actually just a little look at Fredericton. And we will spend one night in Fredericton before we carry on. Fredericton, by the way, is the capital of New Brunswick. And I sometimes think that New Brunswick gets overlooked a little bit because we tend to talk about the extreme beauty of Prince Edward Island. And sometimes I feel that we talk about Nova Scotia too, more than we talk about New Brunswick. But New Brunswick is absolutely beautiful. It really is. In fact, I must say one of my favorite sites personally in all of the Maritimes is a site that we see in New Brunswick. And we actually have 3 shots of that on the screen that we're looking at right now, everyone. It's called the Hopewell Rocks. The Bay of Fundy on the east coast of Canada is famous for having the highest tides in the world. And Cindy, it's just going to escape me now what the record is. I think unofficially it's been recorded at something like 149 feet, but that is absolutely unofficial. That is not recorded, but it is routine for the tides to be, I want to say it's like 120, 130 feet, something like that. You can look it up for me if you want to. But that is, everyone, the distance between low tide and high tide. So it is absolutely incredible. They're called bore tides. And basically what's happening is the water kind of gets squeezed into the Bay of Fundy. So essentially it's getting pushed in, and this bore tide, as it comes in, rises up incredibly fast, creating the highest tides in the world. And the Hopewell Rocks are sometimes also lovingly called the flower pot rocks because they do look a little bit like an upside down flower pot. And as water and waves and erosion happen, every once in a while a rock falls. It's not that many years ago. I think it was about 2017 or so that one of the rocks actually fell down, and that happens from time to time. But if you see the trees there, everyone, on the top of those rocks, at high tide, the water is just about up to those trees, up at the top of the rocks. And at low tide, visitors can actually walk on the ocean floor. And most years with Westworld, we're lucky enough to be able to work out our timing so that we are there during low tide. And it's about 100 steps down. So you have to go down some steps to get there. So it's not for everyone, but most people choose to do it because it's an incredible opportunity to literally have the chance to walk on the ocean floor. So it's a pretty incredible experience. And not too far from the Hopewell Rocks, we make our way to the city of Moncton. And of course, in Moncton, we stop at that odd little wonder known as Magnetic Hill. We drive on Magnetic Hill, and then we stop in Shediac, New Brunswick. And we often like to do a group picture at the world's largest lobster. That's what you're looking at there in the center of your screen. And then finally, going up to the top right-hand corner, everyone, we're looking at Confederation Bridge. And I'm always really interested with our groups with Westworld that people will say that driving across Confederation Bridge for many people is actually one of their highlights of the whole 25-day tour to the Maritimes. It is an architectural wonder. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it was 1997 when Confederation Bridge opened. It is 12.9 kilometers long over Northumberland Strait. What I can tell you is that Confederation Bridge is actually built on a little curve. It's a bit hard to see in the picture that we're looking at there, but it's actually curved. Well, I was born and raised in Saskatchewan. I think, you know, who can't drive 12.9 kilometers in a straight line? But apparently they were quite worried about driver inattention from going for 12.9 kilometers in a totally straight line. And that is actually why the bridge does have a curve in it. It connects New Brunswick with Prince Edward Island. And one more interesting thing about Confederation Bridge, if you were going over it in a car, the sides of the bridge are high enough. Basically, all you'd be looking at are the sides of the bridge. But in a motor coach, we're sitting up high enough, you can see everything. And it's spectacular. It's an incredible thing to drive across Confederation Bridge. We like to ask our passengers, you know, 2 by 2 or so, to come up to the front and get a good picture as we head over Confederation Bridge. So truly, for many people, it is actually one of the highlights of their visit to the Maritimes.
Okay, I've got that number here for you about the tides at the Bay of Fundy.
Oh,
Coral.
great.
It says the Guinness Book of World Records states the world's highest average tides are in the Bay of Fundy, where they average 47.6 feet. The highest tide on record in the Bay was 70.9 feet in 1869.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there we go.
Off. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for that. It's been a couple of years since I've been on the tour.
Well, hey, like you said, that's just the recorded.
Yes. Yeah. No. I'm sure that is accurate. My guesstimate was a little high.
They're high, regardless. I can't imagine.
It is. Yeah. It really is. No doubt about that. When we cross Confederation Bridge, everyone, we have arrived in a province in our country that is famously beautiful. The first time I went to Prince Edward Island several years ago, I was so amazed. The island looks like a painting. It really does. And they call it Island Pride. And local Prince Edward Islanders take their island pride very, very seriously. It is very hard to find anything out of place. It's very hard to find a building with peeling paint on it even. They take their pride in beautiful Prince Edward Island very, very seriously. It is famously beautiful, and that's actually a really good shot of their potato crops growing in that red soil on the top left-hand side of the screen. There's a little story that I have actually heard from local step-on guides in PEI, I have to tell you, and this is commonly told by the islanders. They say that, of course, you know, people will say that it's actually iron oxide that causes the soil to be red in PEI, but in fact, what actually happened is that God created the earth, and when he looked down, when he was finished and saw Prince Edward Island, it was just so beautiful that he blushed, and that's actually what turned the soil red in PEI. So that is a commonly repeated story in Prince Edward Island. We're going to have another wonderful 2-night stay. So again, just kind of a relaxing time in PEI. We are again going to have a local guide join us. And this time it's not just for a tour of Charlottetown, although we will be staying for 2 nights in Charlottetown. This time it's for what we call an island tour. So we will be touring around Charlottetown, learning more about Canada's history, you know, the Fathers of Confederation sitting sitting down together in Charlottetown and basically coming up with the seedlings for the idea of Canada, pardon me. I meant to say it's interesting that Prince Edward Island was actually not one of the original 4 provinces to join. PEI didn't quite agree to the terms and conditions when Canada was formed in 1867. So they held off a few years, even though Charlottetown is where Canada was essentially born. So we'll learn all about that with our local guide in Charlottetown. And then we're going to go for a lovely drive. So we're going to see actually a fair bit of Prince Edward Island going out towards the beautiful national park, seeing those, again, famous red cliffs, the red soil, the potato crops, of course. We'll eat some PEI potato chips. We're also going to be touring what is definitely one of the most famous places on Prince Edward Island. And you see that shot there in the center on the right-hand side of the screen. You too will have your opportunity to dress up as Anne of Green Gables if you wish to. That is indeed myself and Leanne from Westworld dressed up in our Anne of Green Gables costumes. So everyone should have a chance to do it. And believe me, I've seen several men dress up as Anne as well too. Certainly Anne of Green Gables is one of the things that Prince Edward Island is famous for. Lucy Maud Montgomery wrote the Anne books, and it's really just such a lovely story of Anne of Green Gables. One of the things I find particularly lovely about the story is that Lucy Maud Montgomery, she said that people would sometimes ask her if Anne was a real person. There was something about Anne of Green Gables that just felt so real and so believable to so many people. And the story goes that Lucy Maud Montgomery said she felt that she was doing Anne a great disservice by admitting that she was actually a fictional character. But in fact, the farm where Anne of Green Gables, where the story was based on, and the house actually was based on a real place, relatives of Lucy Maud Montgomery. And so even though Anne actually was a fictional character, we actually can tour the Anne of Green Gables cottage where the story was based on, and tour the grounds, to the barn, even Lover's Lane and the haunted forest, those of you who know the story of Anne of Green Gables. So that will be one of the things that we get to enjoy. You see some lobster traps in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. Something that's really interesting for a lot of us prairie folks is hearing our local guide in PEI do a bit of a talk and a demonstration. Well, I guess I shouldn't call it a demonstration exactly, but certainly a talk on how a lobster trap actually works. And it's really, really interesting. I haven't touched on yet the incredible seafood that we will get to eat in the Maritimes. Honestly, those of you listening tonight who love seafood, oh my goodness, you are in for such a treat. I eat seafood chowder pretty well every single day, once for sure, in the Maritimes, and I just can't get enough of it. It is so incredible. And another one of the great highlights of the Maritime portion of our tour is going to a traditional lobster supper, and that's what you're looking at, everybody, in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Of course, we get the bibs. You want to have that bib on, although to be fair, they're going to crack your lobster open for you. Don't worry. You're not going to have to get those tools out and try and get into the lobster yourself, but it'll be cracked open, and it's all about the butter that night. You just have to throw caution to the wind and just keep dipping everything in the warm butter because it's just so darn good. I think for me, even more than the lobster are the mussels. Those Atlantic mussels are absolutely delicious, but there is so much good seafood to eat in Prince Edward Island and all through the Maritimes. So many things to look forward to. From there, everyone, we are going to leave Prince Edward Island, and we're going to leave it by a different means. We arrived by Confederation Bridge. We are going to leave by means of the water, and this is quite fun. This is a ferry crossing. So we're going to be spending time on Northumberland Strait. We're going to spend time on the Gulf of St. Lawrence. And of course, we're going to spend time on the Atlantic Ocean itself too. But crossing Northumberland Strait, we're going to cross over to Nova Scotia. So we'll be saying goodbye to lovely Prince Edward Island and making our way to beautiful Nova Scotia, arriving at Caribou in Nova Scotia, making our way through Pictou, driving through part of mainland Nova Scotia, and then heading over to Cape Breton Island. Again, we're going to have another 2-night stay on Cape Breton Island. Have a look on the left-hand side of your screen. This is called Canso Causeway. Canso Causeway is actually a man-made causeway that opened, I believe it was 1955, if memory serves me right. Again, it's a couple of years since I've been out, but 1955, I believe it was, when the Canso Causeway was completed to connect mainland Nova Scotia with Cape Breton Island. And Cape Breton Island, absolutely beautiful. Of course, so many famous East Coast musicians to come out of Cape Breton Island, and we're going to have a lovely 2-night stay in the city of Sydney. Looking forward to another thing that is going to be one of the great highlights of our trip to the East Coast coming up.
Okay, so I looked it up, and the causeway opened in August of 1955.
Okay, all right, I got that one. Good. I'm going purely by memory tonight, everyone.
Well, you're doing darn good.
Well, thank you. Forgive me if I do get anything wrong.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, as I say, it's been a couple of years, and we're so happy that we're going back to the Maritimes this fall. So yeah. Our next slide that Cindy has for us, everyone, is definitely another of the great highlight days. There's no question about that this will be one of the things that many people will be looking forward to on their journey out to the Maritimes, and that is the Cabot Trail. The Cabot Trail is unquestionably one of the most, famously, one of the most photographed and one of the most photogenic highways in all of our beautiful country. And we do a day trip around the Cabot Trail. So in the morning, we're on the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and then in the afternoon, we're on the Atlantic Ocean. And no trip to the Atlantic Ocean would be complete without the opportunity to dip your toes in the Atlantic Ocean. And certainly you will have the opportunity to do that. We'll make some really great photo stops as well. You see that that famous scene in the shots that you're looking at there of the highway just clinging to the edges of the cliffs. It's spectacularly beautiful. And there are some really great pullouts where we can stop and get some really good photo opportunities for you. We're going to have a picnic lunch that day. There's actually lots of really fun stops, places where we'll be getting out and just enjoying the scenery and stopping for photo stops until usually people are just too tired saying, I can't get off the bus anymore. I just need to sit. So yeah, we're going to have a great day on the Cabot Trail. And something else that we're going to do actually in the morning before we start the trail itself is tour the museum, which is up on the right-hand corner of your screen. It is actually operated now by Parks Canada, and it's called the Alexander Graham Bell Museum. Alexander Graham Bell, of course, we know him for his most famous invention, which, as we know, of course, was the telephone. He invented a lot of other things too. He was really, he was a genius. They called him the genius of Benbria. Benbria was his beautiful mountain, and that was where he had his home on Cape Breton Island. It reminded him so much of the Highlands of Scotland, where he had originally come from. But he was the genius of Benbria, and his mind was always thinking and always creating. He was particularly proud of the work that he did with the deaf. His wife, Mabel, was actually deaf from birth, and communication, of course, was something that he took a lot of pride in. But an incredible family man. He was actually just an incredible person. And it's very, very interesting touring the Alexander Graham Bell Museum. So big day for us. We tour the Alexander Graham Bell Museum and then do the Cabot Trail before we arrive back at our hotel in Sydney that evening. Making our way onto Halifax. This is another 2-night stay. We're not quite finished the big chapter, the one that I call the Maritimes. 2 nights in Halifax, where once again we will have a local step-on guide join us. This is a beautiful city. If I were to list my top 5 favorite cities in Canada, indeed I have been in every province and territory. There is absolutely no question to me that certainly Quebec City, and definitely Halifax too would make my list of my top 5 favorite cities in Canada. It is really beautiful. We're going to have a great tour there. I have to be honest with you though, some of the history in Halifax is actually very sad. It's really interesting, but it's also sad. December 1917 is when an explosion happened in Halifax that was the largest man-made explosion prior to the atomic bomb. It happened when 2 ships, this is wartime, this is 1917, the Emo and the Mont Blanc, excuse me, collided in the harbor. No one watching those ships on fire that day knew that one of them was loaded up with ammunition. It was wartime. They didn't want to advertise it had ammunition on board. Many people were standing on the docks watching those ships on fire. And it wasn't too long, I believe it was something like around 20 minutes later, when the explosion happened and leveled a huge part of Halifax. I believe it was something like around 2,000 people were killed that day. To make matters even worse, that very night was a huge blizzard in Halifax besides. So it's very sad, but it's quite an interesting story about the Halifax explosion. And then not only that, Halifax also played a very important role in the recovery effort from Titanic. This is another part of Halifax's story and its history. We have the chance to tour after our city tour is completed, the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. It's an incredible museum, and they actually have artifacts off of Titanic in the museum. So it's pretty amazing to actually, know you're looking at a deck chair and a cabinet out of a stateroom that came off Titanic. Down at the bottom of the screen, everyone, we're looking at a cemetery. It's called Fairview Lawn Cemetery. There's something, I believe it might be around 200 or so graves in Fairview Lawn Cemetery that are victims from Titanic. And you can't really see it in this picture, but they are actually, those graves, those rows of graves are actually shaped like the bow of a ship. And an incredible story about that our groups are often told by the local step-on guide is that when they found Titanic, what was it, 1985, I think? When they found Titanic, the bow of the ship is actually pointing the same direction as the graves are in Fairview Lawn Cemetery in Halifax. So I know for myself, I think for a lot of our travelers, it really brings it home. We've read the books, we've seen the movies, but it just really reminds you those are real people and in real lives that were lost in Titanic. So on the far right-hand side of the screen at the bottom, the Blue Nose 2. Every once in a while we're lucky, and the Blue Nose 2 is actually in Halifax while we're there. Every now and again that does happen for us. So we'll cross our fingers. You get to see the Blue Nose 2. And that evening we go out for a wonderful dinner at Peggy's Cove. And Peggy's Cove is unquestionably another of the most photographed and most famous places in the east coast of Canada. That's actually a shot of the village that you're looking at in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. I believe it's something like around 150 people who live there. It's not very many, but the famous Peggy's Cove Lighthouse just in the bottom center as well too. So we're going to go out for a wonderful seafood dinner and mail some postcards, get the famous Peggy's Cove stamp, and take some pictures and look around and have a wonderful time out at Peggy's Cove. So another busy day for us. Moving on, we're just about finished with the Maritimes portion of the tour. There's so much to see and do at this part of the tour. We're going to make our way back to New Brunswick, but before we do that, we're going to stop in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. And in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, we're actually going to have a chance to tour the Spring Hill Miners Museum. Now, something I find particularly interesting for those who aren't too claustrophobic, we put on hard hats and we get to go right down into the mine. Now, not everybody will want to do it because for some people, they're just a little bit too claustrophobic to go down into the mine. But lots of people do it actually, and I find it absolutely fascinating. And at one point, our guide at the Spring Hill Miners Museum will shut all his lights off. By the way, they're usually old miners that are the guides there. So they are really interesting to listen to. And when they shut their lights off, it is absolutely black dark down there. there. So a lot of history of Spring Hill Mine and the various mining disasters they had there before the mine actually had to close down. But it's really, really interesting. And we have lunch there that day. We get a little bit of free time in Spring Hill. Of course, you may know that Spring Hill's famous for one of Canada's most famous singers, Anne Murray, came from Spring Hill. So over the lunch break, if you wish to take some time to go into the Anne Murray Center, you definitely can do that as well. And that night, we will be going to St. John. So we're back in New Brunswick again, looking in the top right-hand corner, the St. John Market. It's been operating since, I just forget what year it escapes me, but I believe it was the late 1800s, this traditional St. John Market. It's really fantastic. So you'll have a chance to do that. And we'll also take our motor coach over to see what they call the reversing falls. So that's what you're looking at on both the left and right on the bottom of our screen right now. There's an upper and a lower lookout, excuse me, pardon me. It's technically not a waterfall, but again, everyone, this is because of the bore tides, where that incredible amount of water is squeezed into the Bay of Fundy and comes up the St. John River and actually changes the direction of the St. John River for a certain length of time every day until the tide reverses it and the water goes back out. So really, really interesting. We'll stop at the visitor center and learn a little bit more about the reversing falls of St. John on the St. John River. From there, everyone, we have now finished the Maritime chapter. I'm sorry I'm talking so long here. We only have a few more slides here, I think, to look at, I believe, Cindy. Hard to squeeze it all in too quickly, being that it is indeed a 25-day tour, I guess, right? So, but we have completed the Maritime chapter. The next chapter of the tour is the one that I call New England. And this is where we go down into the New England states of the US. And we've just come through a busy chapter of the tour as we've been enjoying all of those sights and attractions of the Maritimes. And now we kind of breathe, kick back, and we get a little more sleep again. We have a chance to just relax. This is a much more kind of laid back part of the tour, but it's absolutely lovely. We drive through the state of Maine, and then we have a stay in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's actually beautiful. So New Hampshire is really a lovely state. And so is Vermont, for that matter, as well. So we're going to be spending some time around Gorham, New Hampshire. As I say, the White Mountains. Certainly one of the highlights of that is the gondola ride that we're going to be taking. It's called the Cannon Mountain Tramway. And have a look, everyone, on the center photo on the right-hand side of the screen. The Cannon Mountain Tramway offers spectacular views. It's a big tram, so even if you are a bit afraid of heights, you'll probably be just fine going up there. It holds something like around 80 people at once. So it's a big, big tram. We have lunch up at the top of Cannon Mountain. There's some little walking trails you can do. It's really a spectacular day. So that's a lot of fun. And then not only that, just enjoying those beautiful fall colors. We're getting well into fall now, late September, early October by this part of our tours. So we're generally getting some beautiful, beautiful reds and golds in the trees. And then making our way, we will be crossing Lake Champlain. So another small ferry crossing over Lake Champlain. We see that in the top right-hand corner. And then we're going to actually be spending a night in Lake Placid, New York. So we will take that ferry across Lake Champlain to New York State, and you'll have a chance to tour the Olympic Museum, actually. That's in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So we'll see the Olympic Museum as part of our stay in Lake Placid. And then I'll try and be brief here now, everyone, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk just a little bit about this, because we are coming back up into Canada at this point of the tour. This is spectacular. It never fails to amaze me, just the wonder and the power of Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is technically two waterfalls. In the top left-hand corner of the screen, you're looking at the American side. It's called Bridal Bridalveil Falls. On the right-hand side of the screen, we're looking at the larger one, the more famous one, to be honest. It is the Canadian Falls, and it is called Horseshoe Falls. And together, the two of them, Horseshoe and Bridalveil, make up Niagara Falls. And it is incredible. The boat tour that we do there, the journey to the falls, is absolutely, I barely have words to describe it even, but I do love that picture in the lower left of the screen, because that's what we look like. They give everybody the blue rain poncho, and if you don't want to get wet, I know as a guide, I always suggest to our group members, you know, stay in the lower level, kind of stay a little farther back, you won't get wet. But I always tell my groups, you know, come up with me if you're not afraid of getting wet. We're going right to the front of the boat. And when you get, they actually get surprisingly quite close to the falls, and the boat is just kind of rocking, and usually everybody's just laughing because the spray coming off the falls is just like being in a shower. It really is, and it's absolutely dramatic. Just feeling the power of nature at Niagara Falls. So I can't say enough about it, but it's really an incredible part of the tour. Again, we're going to have a 2-night stay. Again, we're going to have a local guide that's going to join us, share with us some of the history of Niagara Falls. There are so many amazing stories about Niagara Falls history, the age of daredevils and so on, the first lady that went over to barrel, a 63-year-old school teacher she was, in fact, Annie Taylor. So many great stories. And we'll have a chance to go up to beautiful Niagara on the Lake and see that as well. So much to look forward to at Niagara Falls. And then moving on quickly, we are going back down into the US. We just have a couple of slides left here now, but we are going back down into the US. And I call this chapter of the tour the US. So we have a short chapter I call Niagara Falls. And then our final chapter of the tour is the US, or the States, if you prefer. And we drop down one more time across the border into the United States. And this is really a lovely part of our tour as well. We've been on the road now for several days, but we're still not finished sightseeing. We have some really fantastic things to see. Frankenmuth is located in Michigan, and it was settled by Bavarians from Germany. And to this day, it has very much a Bavarian feel to the town. In fact, not only that, they have really preserved the Bavarian culture and even gone so far as to really promote it as far as tourism goes there. So it's really a lovely Bavarian village. It's known for its traditional Bavarian chicken dinners, which is another included meal that we have to look forward to that night. It's so good. So you're looking at the chicken dinner with the mashed potatoes and such on the left-hand side there. It's just a really tasty dinner. So we do that in Frankenmuth, and no trip to Frankenmuth would be complete without seeing the world's largest Christmas store, and it is pretty mind-blowing. That's it. In the center and the bottom of the screen, it's so big, I'll be honest with you, I feel tired as soon as I walk in the door. I really do. But if you love Christmas and you want to shop for anything, and I mean anything Christmas, this is the place to do it. So there's usually some pretty big shopping bags coming back on our bus after we stop at the world's largest Christmas store. But Frankenmuth, Michigan is a lot of fun. And I believe this is my last slide here, Cindy. So just before I wrap up and turn it back over to you, this is another really great attraction, right? Getting close to the end of our tour, everyone. But I have many times said to my guests with Westworld on the Maritimes all-coach tour that I love that we are sightseeing just about right up to the end of the tour. You know, we're getting close, coming back up to Minneapolis. We're going to make our way back up to Winnipeg and start saying goodbye to people, and yet we're still seeing really neat things. And this is a boat tour that we have in the Wisconsin Dells as we make our way up towards Minneapolis. This is is so beautiful. And I think you can see that by just looking at the pictures. The Wisconsin Dells is really a beautiful part of the US, and certainly a beautiful part of the state of Wisconsin. As you can imagine, by the way, we do stop to buy some cheese in Wisconsin. We got to do that. And then we have a lovely afternoon boat ride, or morning boat ride, excuse me, in the Wisconsin Dells. Basically, what has happened is the river has come through this area and carved the sandstone rocks into these weird and wonderful shapes. And many, many years ago, there was a photographer in the early days of photography, in fact, that took a lot of pictures of this part of the world. And people didn't really know what was there. And then people started coming in and it became a tour destination. And to this day, it is still that. So, but the boats are a lot fancier. They say those first boat tours, guests were actually given a couple of oars and they had to basically paddle their way through the Wisconsin Dells. Now, as you can see, it is a lovely boat, and on a nice day, and often it is, usually it's a nice crisp fall day when we're there, and you can ride up on top of the boat. It's a narrated trip. Twice we have a chance to get off the boat and go for a walk. And we're looking on the bottom right-hand side of the screen at what they call the Witch's Gulch. And it is extraordinary. It really is. So we'll walk on those boardwalks through those rocks in the Witch's Gulch, and the scenery is just spectacular. Again, I can't say enough about it. And also, I can't say enough about what a great tour this is, everyone. But it's hard to fit everything into just a short length of time. So forgive me, Cindy, if I've probably gone over a little bit of my time here. But regardless, everyone, I do hope that you found it interesting. And I just want to say one more time, what a spectacular tour it really is. So 25 days and so much to look forward to. And certainly I would love to have the pleasure of sharing it with any of you listening tonight. So thank you so much, Cindy.
Oh, thank you, Koral. Obviously, I mean, your knowledge and amazes me. Thank you so much. I'm gonna get you to hang on here, so when we get to all the questions, then you can help us answer them too. I know I'm sure we'll have a few for us. So this here is just a couple of reviews that we've received back from some of our past passengers, and Annette and Bill responded that this tour was awesome and beyond our expectations. We were able to cross a few things off our bucket list, and we thoroughly enjoyed this tour and highly recommend it. Linda and Bob review said they did, you know, one of the questions we ask on our customer surveys, I guess, at the end of the tour that we hand out to all of our customers is, did we give you value? And Linda and Bob both, you know, responded, yes. It seemed like a lot to pay, but then once we got on the tour and realized how much was included, the price was good. Loved every minute, and trip of a lifetime for us. So many sights, sounds, a variety of food, great hotels, so many attractions to see in our Canada, and really enjoyed the New England states with all the fall colors. Guide and driver, an excellent team. The whole tour met our expectations. Again, this is one of our most popular tours, and we've already filled and sold out 2 of our 25-day Maritimes all coach tours, and added this 3rd date for September 9th. And like Koral said, it is filling like hotcakes. And for any of you that perhaps think maybe a 25-day tour is a little too much for you, we do have a few seats left available on our Maritimes Fly-In Coach tour, which leaves August 15th to the 26th. So if you're looking for something a little bit shorter, this is a tour that will start in Halifax and end in St. John's, New Brunswick. So there's another option for you as well. And again, like truly, Koral, what a great presentation. Your knowledge just blows me away, but maybe, you know, if I'd been there to the Maritimes 18, 19 times, maybe I could, you know, possess a bit of that. So always great listening to you. So I'm going to, oh yeah. And I'm just going to check to see what we have for some questions here.
And thanks for doing that fact checking for me too.
Oh, well, you know, it's, I try to do my part.
Like I say, I was going 100% off of memory tonight.
I know. And you know what? That's an awful lot to remember. So I'm thoroughly impressed. But so questions here from Stuart is asking, of the 25 days, how many are spent on the bus? Which is a good question. Obviously, we're on the coach every day, but we're not always traveling to a new destination every day. As Coral mentioned, there are multiple stops where we have 2-night stays. So that really breaks up that journey and you're not spending full days on the coach for sure. And again, on those longer travel days, we make frequent stops, as Coral mentioned, not only for photo stops, but we're stopping every 2.5 to 3 hours for a coffee break. You know, usually an hour or more for lunch, and then we're back on the road again. We do like to arrive into our overnight stop, generally whenever possible around dinner hours. So just to give you an idea of the times that we are on the coach. Coral, do you have anything else that maybe you'd like to add to that? Or
I think that sounds really good, Cindy. Maybe the only thing I would add is I honestly feel, my experience is that the only days that can feel a bit long, you know, that you've been on the coach a lot, are those first few days, really. Once we get to Ottawa, that really changes. The days that we're traveling in the Maritimes feel a lot shorter, and even on the way home, it feels shorter. But we go through a time zone change, you know, 2-3 times in those early days of the trip, and that is a contributing factor, of course, why the days can feel a bit long. So, and you know, got to make those miles to get that far. So, a few longer days at the beginning, and otherwise, you know, they don't seem that bad, really.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Another question here is, how long is the ferry and is it smooth? Also, is it mostly casual dress? Coral, I'll let you speak to that one too.
Sure, absolutely. So our main ferry crossing is the one from Prince Edward Island over to Nova Scotia. It is, I want to say from memory, I think it's about 1.5 hours. It's just enough to have, you know, a nice ferry crossing and get to really enjoy it and sit back and relax, but not terribly long. I want to say it's about 1.5 or 1 hour 45 minutes, something like that. So that's our longest ferry crossing. And then we have one more, which is very short. That's about a 20-minute crossing on Lake Champlain, crossing between Vermont and New York State.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And it's, yes, definitely casual dress. It's your vacation. We want you to be comfortable. It's a casual, comfortable attitude. So, an atmosphere. So definitely comfortable shoes are important, but definitely it's casual throughout the tour. The ferry, is it smooth? I would imagine it's totally dependent upon the water, and but for the most part, I would assume, Coral.
It is quite smooth, Cindy. Sorry to interrupt.
Good.
I'm just trying to think of if I've ever had an experience where it wasn't, and nothing comes to mind actually. I can't say I've ever had a rough crossing, maybe a little wavy, but not bad. I mean, you're kind of in sheltered water. That's Northumberland's great. Like you're not actually on the open Atlantic.
Right. Yeah.
We're crossing there, so that makes a big difference, of course, too.
And I imagine that the ferries would come with some major stabilizers, being as they're carrying a lot of vehicles as well. So, yes. Another question here. I tried to find the prices and the tour dates. Could you email me the information, please? And definitely we will be following up with an email for you. And Debbie is asking, what is the activity level of this tour? Coral, I can let you speak to that one as well.
Okay. Let me think. This is definitely a tour where there can be a fair bit of walking on it. So I'm not sure what number it would be rated at, Cindy, but it's not Not as high as some, but I would say it would be a fairly high activity level. So,
Okay.
there are certain things, of course, though, where if you chose to, sit back and, not tour the inside the Parliament building, for example, to wait on the bus, that's always an option as well, if you
Mhm,
need to skip
mhm.
something for the sake of not walking. But yeah, there's a fair bit of activity for sure. And again, it's 25 days. So it's a busy trip.
Yeah, it's a busy trip, yeah, but I'm assuming that the walking, like you're not walking miles at a time. It's
No,
it's
no,
it's within an attraction like Anne of Green Gables, or like you mentioned, the
exactly.
Parliament buildings. So it's
Yeah,
not a lot of lengthy walking. And I
you're
do
absolutely
believe
right.
that the majority of the city tours are like a scenic drive versus an actual walking tour,
Yeah,
correct?
you're absolutely right. There's
Yeah,
nothing at all that would qualify as, a hike or anything like that.
right.
You're
Yeah.
right, Cindy. Like there's nothing that would be a really, terribly long walk or a rugged walk per se.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Huh.
That. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we are
Yeah.
clear on that. Other than it being a busy tour, there's lots of attractions to see. There's lots of sights to see. So there's a lot of on and off the coach, and a lot of, like I said, walking within. You could be standing for a while, and things like that. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Do I need to take an antigen to enter the States? That is a good question, Isabel. And when you're crossing at a land border, it isn't necessary. So that's one thing that when you're crossing on the land versus flying, you're not required. And Ruth is also asking about the total cost of the day of the tour. And does it include such as meals and tipping? And how would we connect with the tour, being as we live in Vancouver? We do have many people, Ruth, that join us from out west. And we would recommend that you fly from your home city and join us for our night in Winnipeg, which is our first night in Winnipeg. Our hotel in Winnipeg does have a complimentary airport shuttle. So you'll be, picked up at the airport and taken to our hotel, where you'll meet up with the group that night. And that's generally the best spot to join the tour.
Mhm.
And we will definitely be following up with everybody who has joined us this evening and registered for the presentation, with a link that will give you all of the information to the tour, including the pricing, for a total cost, including all your taxes, all of that good stuff. We would recommend that you contact your local travel agent, or give us a call, or send us an email at information@westworldtours.com. And I'm going to put that up on our slide here in a minute. Actually, I think I'll just move to that right now. And there you go. It's information@westworldtours.com. And we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that we can't give you exact numbers right now. Jeanette is asking, I'd also like the price for two. So again, Jeanette, you will be receiving that email, or please send us an email to information@westworldtours.com. And we will be more than happy to send that out to you, total including all taxes. And let's see, Jeanette has another question. For people who have allergies for lobster dinner, what do they do?
Oh, yeah. I'll go ahead and take that one, Cindy, if you don't mind, because I was
Yeah,
thinking
please do.
when I was talking, I probably should have mentioned that at the time. There are always options for people who are not seafood eaters, because
Right.
there will always be, folks on our East Coast tour that, don't like seafood, or for allergy reasons, can't eat seafood.
Mhm.
And there's always options, even at the lobster supper that we go to in Prince Edward Island. There are definitely non-seafood options. I believe roast beef is one of them for sure. I know.
Nice.
So there are options definitely. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Coral, for answering that question. And to answer the question for, I believe it was Ruth, or that was asking how many meals are included on this particular tour. pardon me, we do have a number of breakfasts included on this tour. And then there's 2 lunches throughout and 4 dinners are included. On a 25-day tour, we do want you to have the options, you know, to select your own meals. Many people like to choose a light meal for lunch or a bigger, larger meal for lunch and a lighter dinner. So when you're traveling for that length of time, having the ability to make the choices of what you would like is nice versus having all of your meals decided for you too. So variety is always nice, we say.
Yeah, it's the nice special meals like the lobster supper, the sugar shack meal
Right.
in Quebec. In Quebec, the Frankenmuth Bavarian dinner is so yeah,
Yes.
special ones.
Yeah. And then I believe the farewell dinner, and that would be the 4. You named them all, Coral. Look at you. The 4 dinners that are included. And like I mentioned, there are a couple of lunches and a number of breakfasts are included throughout as well. So I hope that's answered your question, but all of that information is available on the link that you will be receiving from us. Everybody, as I mentioned, that registered for the presentation will receive an email from us that will have all of that information for you. And again, if there's any more questions that you need, by all means, please just send us a quick email at information@westworldtours.com.
Cindy,
And
I actually did see another question
oh,
there
good.
about laundry. I can go ahead
Oh,
and
good.
quickly take that one.
Yeah,
If
good.
you like. Yeah, I saw the question was asked if there are opportunities to do laundry during the tour.
Right.
There definitely are. I know as a guide, and I'm sure all of our Westworld guides do this. I know personally, I'm a big fan of giving everybody all that information, you know, ahead of time when we're coming up to a new hotel. You know, hey, everybody, this is going to be a great hotel to do laundry at, good laundry facilities here, that kind of thing. You know, nights when it's not a really busy night, when you have time to do laundry, and you know, and also there's laundry facilities. So there will absolutely be some hotels, not every single one, but there will be hotels throughout the whole tour where there will be laundry facilities. And as guides, we will definitely let you know that, even let you know the hours of operation for the laundry room and all that kind of stuff. 25-day tour, pretty well everybody has to do laundry at least once at some point for sure. So
Definitely. That's a thank you for, you know, noticing. I'm sorry I missed that question. There was another question here about can we opt out of any of the activities that you know, and I think you addressed that earlier when you said, you know, if there's anything that you want to opt out of, you're not obligated. You know, we can make arrangements for you to sit out on a particular activity or attraction, or definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, if for some reason, you know, someone wanted to do their, you know, totally do their own thing in Halifax, for example, or in Prince Edward Island, you could always just like opt out of the day when we have a 2-night stay at the hotel. That would always, you know, be something you certainly could do as well.
Right. And I know that we have had people do that on tours. So that's not an unusual question. So it was a great question to ask. And I think that is all the questions. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone for joining us this evening. And again, thank you so much to Coral for sharing your knowledge with us once again. And hopefully everybody can join us again on May 25th at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time for our Women Explorers, a New York, a Christmas spectacular tour.